1975 was a time of unusual economic uncertainty for America, and Purdue University had to adjust to it like everyone else. Inflated operating costs and increases in student enrollment led to cutbacks in some areas. But in terms of instruction, 1975 was the university's most successful year to date. The new Potter Engineering Research Center was erected on schedule, thanks to the Purdue Centennial Fund. Basketball, as always, provided welcome relief from the tensions of study and winter confinement. Fine teamwork, topped off with sharp shooting by senior John Garrett and by Dick Satterfield, another senior, carried Purdue to a 17-11 season and a tie for third place in the conference. During Gala Week, members of the class of 1925 commemorated their 50th reunion by providing landscaping for this corner of Centennial Mall. The silver anniversary class of 1950 chose to give trees and rest benches to further enhance the same area between Chemistry and Coulter Hall. Gala Week this year coincided with the running of the 17th annual Grand Prix and the festivities which accompany it. Neil Armstrong, back for his 20th class reunion, was Grand Marshal of the title event. Besides providing a healthful outlet for youthful energies, the race annually makes a substantial contribution to the Alumni Foundation's scholarship funds.
Dr. Humphrey will now be vested with a vote and receive an appropriately inscribed diploma.
The emotional highlight of Gala Week was at the annual Founders Day banquet. In an unprecedented double ceremony, President Emeritus Frederick L. Hovde was awarded the two highest honors which the university can bestow. The rest of us felt honored to be his friend.
Whereas it is the intent of the trustees that the Hovde name shall be honored and revered by those associated with Purdue, be it resolved by the trustees of Purdue University that the building housing the chief executive offices of the university shall forever bear the style and the name of Frederick L. Hovde Hall of Administration. Hovde, if you'll come forward, I have a small picture for you. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, surely, one of the most deeply satisfying honors that can come to any man and woman is to be honored by his university.
It was a delightful spring in every way, the balmy, fragrant kind you can't help but feel and long remember. We enjoyed it in every spare moment between studies and finals. The next thing one realized, the school year was over, except for the many hurried farewells and lingering goodbyes. Over 5,500 students earned Purdue degrees during the year. This summer, over 1,150 boys came to study with Coach Fred Schaus and the large staff of Purdue's second annual summer basketball camp. They came from as far away as Puerto Rico for the one-week sessions to live in the dorms and receive individualized instruction in fundamentals of the game, with lots of drill, team practice, and opportunities to play in competition. Visiting professional players like Rick Mount, the Big Ten scoring record holder from the class of 1970, gave the boys additional tips and presented each with his earned awards. We can't help but wonder how many future basketball champions were there. New roofs for some of the married student apartments is not much to report on, but the use of trussed roofs is. This type of construction currently saves Americans many millions of dollars a year, and about 85% of the research in perfecting it has been done in Purdue's Wood Products Laboratory. One of the originators of the program, Dr. Stanley Sudarth, explains.
20 years of successes and frustrations are buried in these pages that report our work. Plans for building a truss, plans for building truss testing machinery, methods of analysis of trusses, a computer program for trusses, and one of our latest, a computer system that will design any kind of truss or frame that the engineer can dream up. When we began, roofs were framed with closely spaced, heavy pieces of lumber. Interior partitions were also needed to hold up this type of roof. Now let's look at a roof framed with 2x4 trusses more widely spaced. These factory-built units only have to be nailed in place on the job, and no interior support is needed. This roof is framed with half the lumber, and yet it's stronger. There were so many unknowns at the beginning that we had to test whole trusses to develop finished designs. This is an example of that early work where heavy loads of shingle bundles told us we were on the right track. Notice the way the truss bends. That's important information to the engineer. Now we press buttons instead of lifting weight, and a computer tells us how the truss will bend by drawing a red picture of the bent structure. Of course, it took years to reach the computer stage. To progress, we had to make mathematics tell us how pieces of trusses acted together. Then we could test parts, such as this truss plate joint, and use the answers to design hundreds of trusses. As we were solving the problems themselves were changing. For example, the new truss industry produced all sorts of new connector inventions. This is a sample of the variety that we face, each with its own peculiar engineering properties. We got into the change game ourselves and developed a new lumber grading system that brought the accuracy of machines into the strength grading process. As time went on, our engineering gains stretched our design abilities from a few test-based designs to limitless numbers. This recent photo shows one aspect of the change. The trusses going into place are 100 feet long. The best we could do in the beginning was 28 feet, as shown by the little scale sketch. We believe we've been successful. We've made better use of a renewable resource, wood. In houses alone, a conservative estimate says that over $5 billion has been saved in 20 years by the trusses. And there's more to come, because each research gain that we make in a truss now can be multiplied into the more than 40 million trusses that are used each year.
The fall semester began on one of those good corn-growing days of August, with Dean Potter making his daily rounds as usual. Student enrollment set a new record of 28,923 on campus, almost 1,500 more than last year, and about twice the increase we expected. All of the dormitories and West Lafayette rooms were filled, and many students had to take places far off campus. Wherever they settled, one of the first priorities was to get acquainted with their new neighbors. This is how the men and women of Harrison Hall went about it. This is an annual event arranged by the Hall's management and counseling staff, which has its own specialty act, co-starring the dietitian. Finding friends to share one's special interests was easy at the Student Activities Carnival. Each year there is more to choose from. One of the newest and fastest growing organizations is the Purdue Student Section of the Society of Women Engineers. Purdue this fall had about 500 women in engineering, nearly twice as many as last spring, and more than any other school in the nation. Engineering 195W is an elective for women just beginning their engineering studies. The course features discussions with women already working in the field. In this case, Elizabeth Weber, ME class of 67. The coordinator of Purdue's programs for women in engineering is Mrs. Christine Smith, here enjoying an informal dinner with graduate engineering students at the home of the provost and his wife, Dr. Violet Haas, professor of electrical engineering. In case you're wondering, women choose engineering for the same reasons men do. They like it, they can learn it, and the job opportunities and pay are good. With most women now holding jobs for about 25 years of their lives, why shouldn't they do the most interesting and rewarding work they can? A new era in intercollegiate athletics began this fall as 7 women's sports moved from club status to full varsity standing under the director of athletics. The move is in line with the proposed new Big Ten policy to provide equal opportunities for athletes of both sexes. It is not an easy change to bring about because the men's sports have so much more experience and public interest on their side. To implement the change at Purdue, a new women's intercollegiate athletics program has been established with Dr. Carol Mertler as coordinator and coach of women's field hockey. Track had not started yet, but the other teams performed very well this fall. The tennis team was undefeated, a fact which particularly pleases Mrs. Sally Combs, Director of Public Relations and Promotion. Her ultimate task is to make the program self-supporting, like the men's. One of her first acts was to organize the new Purdue Sportswomen's Society. This is a group of men and women who make an annual contribution to support women's athletics. Charter memberships are still available in this new counterpart of the venerable John Purdue Club, which has done and continues to do so much for our male athletes. A new sport came to Purdue this fall with the running of the first annual Boilermaker tractor pull, managed by the new Boilermaker Tractor Pull Foundation, a group of mostly ag engineering students. About 150 machines were brought from all parts of the Midwest for the 2-day event. For owners and drivers, the event provided opportunities to compete for substantial cash prizes and for points needed to qualify in the big Indianapolis Super Pull. For the student organizers, it was not only a lot of fun and excitement, but work for a good cause. Like Grand Prix, the tractor pull is sponsored by the Alumni Foundation, and future profits will be used in similar ways to pay for these portable bleachers, to be used all around campus, and to provide funds for student scholarships. Part of the attraction here is in the sounds of these rip-snorting machines. But for football fans, that sound will never match this one. By now, you've undoubtedly heard that Purdue won 4 of its last 6 games, tying for 3rd place in the conference. Now, we'd like to show you some of the many pleasant events which accompanied the games. First, there was the kickoff luncheon, where the principal speaker was America's most affable sports announcer, Dr. Chris Schenkel, class of 45. Homecoming was properly spiced with hospitality for returning alumni and hostility for the visiting Badgers. The housing unit staged a new sheet sign contest with entries hung to decorate the outside of the stadium. Judy Mortel, our new homecoming queen, and President Hanson were a crowd-pleasing duo. The band spurred spirits repeatedly with its fine music and pageantry. And we had a lot of fine plays during the season, like this by Scott Dierken, who will be back next year. And this, which helped senior Greg Pruitt to be elected most valuable player. And we did win over Indiana 9-7. The area in which Purdue most consistently excels is teaching. Our faculty is not only outstanding in its own right, but attracts very strong support from off-campus. Management 481 has so many prominent visitors from the business world that it is commonly called the executive in the classroom. This is Prime Osborne, president of the L&N and Seaboard Coastline, who came to present his views on the social responsibilities of business. Some of the others who discussed the same topic with the class were William Hobbs, chairman of the board of the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, Don Hall, president of Hallmark Cards, and Theodore Brophy, president of General Telephone and Electronics. Buck Rogers, IBM vice president for marketing, discussed the constants of change, and Louis Young, Purdue physics and ME grad, now editor-in-chief of Business Week, dealt with communications and management. The class had 16 such guests this fall. Dr. Fred McLemore, a Purdue graduate, organized the course and delivers about a third of the lectures. Here he introduces Alan Menke, a 43 ME grad and basketball star.
Just last month, he talked about his concern about students like yourselves having an opportunity to be exposed to this whole concept of world trade. Let's welcome Al Menke, okay?
He is now a group vice president with Borg Warner, and you should have heard the discussion on this subject.
The transnational market is one where there is a free movement of capital, free movement of products, and free movement of people. And it's probably one of the great forces of the world in seeing that the freedoms that we cherish are made available to the entire world.
We had a long Indian summer, a fact which suited the men's golf team and Coach Joe Campbell to a T. We caught them here at Purdue's new driving range after making a 28-1 fall showing. In his own student days, Joe led Purdue to 2 Big Ten golf crowns and played varsity basketball in the winters. He still loves Big Ten competition and is looking forward to more than 4 years of it this time. Cold weather set in just in time to help us get into the Christmas spirit. In mid-December, Purdue had the privilege of honoring one of its most successful alumni, John Wooden, an old basketball teammate of our board president, Maury Kanoy.
John Wooden didn't hurt me. I was never able to get near enough to him for that.
Having just retired after coaching UCLA to 10 NCAA championships, Coach Wooden was awarded a doctorate in physical education. Dr. Wooden was an All-American player at Purdue for 3 years in the early 30s. In his remarks, he credited Ward Piggy Lambert for much of his success and reminisced about his years at Purdue beginning in 1929.
The ice cream, yes, I enjoyed it. My freshman year, attorneys had a way in those days. I hope they discontinued of having things known as hazing and road trips. I took one. Was dropped out somewhere, some miles out in the country. At the dead of night, I found my next note, the next place to go, usually does grave, about midnight. And I got out of there as hurriedly as possible. And I stopped at a farmhouse long toward morning. People were lovely, very lovely. They kept me, gave me a nice breakfast. Drove in, he worked in the creamery. From that time on, I had ice cream just whenever I wanted it. The fraternity brothers never realized what a great service.
To conclude this review of Purdue 75, we give you this scene of Potter Center at year's end. And for a preview of 76, a scene we took of the band at the Michigan State game, the finale of their salute to the bicentennial.
I am Old Glory, born amid the first flames of America's fight for freedom. Planted firmly on the pinnacle of American fame, my gently fluttering poles have proved an inspiration to untold millions. Men have looked upon me as a symbol of national unity. They have prayed that they and their fellow citizens might continue to enjoy the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness which have been granted to every American as the heritage of free men. So long as men love liberty more than life itself, so long as they treasure the priceless privileges bought with the blood of our forefathers, so long as the principles of truth, justice, and charity for all remain deeply rooted in human hearts, I shall continue to be the enduring banner of the United States of America. Thank you, men and women of the Purdue Band.